There you go.
There it is. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. There's a few people who couldn't come tonight that wanted a recording. Okay. So, again, the best time to inspect trees and shrubs to see if they need pruning. So, yes, Virginia, absolutely. That refers to the plants being in the ground for a period of time. What are you going to do for next year? Late winter, you're going to start to inspect them. So,
What question was that?
when you first plant your plants, you do inspect them a little bit, and if they have any kind of light pruning needs, then you do it at planting too. So,
Okay. All right. So listen, I'm so excited. So behind my building, I'm always complaining there's not one tree. We got one cottonwood tree. It's not on our property. They planted five new linden woods.
oh, that's good.
Now I'm just guessing they probably got them for free. That's why. But so is lindenwood a good tree? Is it
Yeah.
columnar? Yeah.
Lindens are beautiful native. Well, if it's an American linden, it possibly is not. But even if it's an European linden, um, it's going to have value because the pollinators love the flowers, and they smell
Oh, I'm so
really, really
excited.
good. They smell really good.
I don't remember ever seeing a linden tree anywhere, but anyway, I guess I'm going to have to go inspect them. But there was no tag on them. There was no tag.
You
But they
mean
did
I
put
identifying what it is?
yes,
They probably took
but
it off.
they also wrapped the bottom of the trunk. They did wrap,
You mean
so they
after
put a
they
wrap.
planted?
Yes. Now I don't know if it's a watering thing. I've never seen those watering things before, but they did put a wrap around it, and it was planted properly. There's no volcano,
Okay,
so I was all happy.
that's good. That's good. I know that there are several community tree planting programs going on right now. I know I think I got 12 new trees in the park that I live by, and they said it was the U.S. Forestry Service that was doing tree plantings all over the region. So, and I've seen
Well, that's pretty
plantings in
nice.
place,
I just was glad it wasn't a Bradford pear.
right? Yeah. Okay, anybody else? What do you got? Confusing you, questions, things you want to review, topic you want to review.
Um, okay, so it's not a specific question, but
Okay.
it has to do with the biotic triangle. Um, I think it was when we were just how it applies to different things that we've learned.
Okay.
Um, because it has to deal with like you could use it for the lawns, you could use it for the trees, or any kind of problems. Um, Now it's been probably quite a few weeks, so I don't remember the exact question, but I just remember thinking how when we finish a chapter, then I think about like, okay, how does the biotic triangle deal with this topic?
Okay.
How
That's
does it
a good
apply?
way to think. Let's see if we can get this bigger. Okay. All right. So here's the disease triangle. This is a pretty complicated one. It's referring to something specific because this is from a scientific paper because I saw that it popped up on that. So, um, yeah, so the host, the environment, the pathogen, and the right conditions is what here we go, this is a better one, that we're talking about. And this, yeah, Cindy, you're right. This can be applied to lawn diseases, diseases of plants, diseases of people, as long as we have the
Oh, yeah.
pathogen, the host, which is you, the disease is present, and then the right environment. And then your job as a gardener is that even though the pathogen might be present, is to not give that disease the environment that it wants. So if it's a fungus like powdery mildew, Well, the opposite of powdery mildew, I kind of think of things like that in math terms. I don't know why, I suck at math. But the opposite of powdery mildew is air circulation, airflow. So in that case, then if you know you've had powdery mildew in your garden, you're like, okay, but can I still plant zinnias and phlox that are both very susceptible? Yes, you can, because you plant things spaced out a little bit more. You leave a few feet in between your plants. You get out there in the spring and you're going to remove 1/3 of the stems of your phlox. That promotes air circulation. You know, you get in there and take out every third one. For your zinnias, you plant them, 3 feet apart if possible. That kind of stuff. Is there anything else about this that you need to know?
Um, well, I missed last week's lawn review. So how does that apply to lawns?
Okay, let me try and remember. I mean, I think it's the same way. We get diseases in our lawns. We get bacteria. Well, we don't really get bacterial infections, but fungus is really, really a big one for lawns. It happens a lot. And actually, brown spot and what was the other one? There was some kind of blight fungus that popped up this late summer this year because I got lots and lots of calls about it in the office. And that is that, we have the host, we have the lawn, here's the disease, or here's the pathogen. The right environment was the right weather. We had the right weather, purely. And in one case, one of the diseases, the blight disease, thrived in a lot of water. And this is kind of cool. We figured out that the people who owned the house was on the edge of a lake in St. John, one of the small lakes. And but the property was so close to the lake and it was pitched just right that their property, more than anybody else's, was completely inundated with dew every morning, like a lot of dew every morning. So they weren't overwatering their lawn, but their lawn could not dry out during the day because it was so much water and it was all coming off of this little lake
Huh.
every night. Like the humidity was just floating through the atmosphere and ended up right on their lawn. And other neighbors whose lawns were like a little bit higher elevation away from the surface of the water, they didn't have the lawn disease. So the environment for the pathogen can be really subtle. And especially with fungi, it can be very subtle. It could be, with black spot on roses. If a rose is really particularly susceptible to black spot, that black spot can show up with even just a few hours of the right temperature and moisture conditions. It'll pop within a couple of days of that, but the infection can happen within just a few hours. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Hey, Dolly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if anybody else was affected, but some of your audio just broke loose on the on your last answer.
Oh, I might be
Oh,
too far
It,
away from my microphone.
well, it just kind of like quit, and then it came back again. I'm not
Okay.
sure if anybody else is having the, but
no, I didn't hear that.
Okay. It could have just been a fluke in the internet.
yeah, it's probably my old computer.
Could be.
So,
Could be. Okay, what else do
all
you
right,
guys
I
need
just
to
for to
know?
let you know.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Now, let's see. I cannot show you guys the exam, and I don't have my paper copies of the exam. I think they are, I stowed them away somewhere. Yeah, they're not here. That's really strange. Um,
L-
let's see.
Last Dolly,
Yeah,
last week toward the end of class, you said something about the auxins.
yes.
and it was toward the end of class. We were kind of rushed. What were the auxins? And you said you made a point to us to let us know what we should know what they are.
Yes. Okay, hold on a second. Let me
But
get it opened.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so auxins and cytokinins are two growth hormones that plants use. And auxins are released, I think, in the spring. I was just talking about this with a friend of mine today.
So the plants produce these growth hormones.
They do. They do.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
I can't see anything because I'm kind of blind. Okay. All right. So let's see. We went through mulching, down to pruning, pruning. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. So the auxin cytokinin pathway. Okay. So auxins are manufactured in the canopy at the apical meristem of each branch. And this promotes root growth. That seems the opposite of what it should be. So auxins, every time you make a cut, remember how I've explained that before? Every time you cut on a plant, you stimulate growth, whether it be
Yep.
stem growth or root growth. So to make canopy, you're going to be releasing cytokinins, and to promote root growth, you're releasing auxins. And whichever one you are trying to um, that you are trying to release, or whatever time of year you're doing your pruning, kind of dictates which one is dominant. So during the summer and the spring, the cytokinins are going to be dominant, and they're going to want to, if you cut off branches off of a tree, they're going to want to do this. They're going to want to grow and burst out as many new buds as possible. That's what the cytokinin's job is, to grow canopy. But if you cut during the winter, you don't get so much of that growth in the spring. So sometimes for some trees, it's better to prune them in November and December and January. So like oak trees, we only ever um, cut oak trees and prune them in the fall, late fall. So I've done it as, like at work, we used to do it around Thanksgiving. We would go through, and all the trees that were 3 years old, we would prune them. So every time that we had new trees that were in, and by the time they were 3 years old, that's what we were doing late in the fall. And then anytime that you're cutting, let's see if I can make this make sense. Nope, I just lost my thought. Um, does that make sense to you? I wish I
Yeah, I
had
see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I had the exam so I could tell you.
All right, but
One of my comments to the state coordinator about the Zoom lectures that I mentioned the other day in our meeting was that the Zoom lectures are all too long. They're all way too long. And we can't get through them because we're only given 3 hours a week. So they're going to put me with the committee to work on this project over the winter. And so hopefully we can shorten it. I said, I think there's too many broad topics and not enough detail on certain ones. All
You
right.
want the class you said, or mentioned the Zoom meetings, or is that the Zoom meetings or class?
Actually, the slideshows. I meant
yeah,
slideshows.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I'm sorry. I meant
Gotcha.
slideshows.
slideshows. All right, what's the ethylene part of this plant hormone?
Ethylene ripens fruit.
Right.
Ethylene ripens fruit, and apples have a lot of ethylene. So if you put fruit out in a bowl, everything will ripen really, really fast if you put apples with it.
Oh,
ridiculously fast. So, in the refrigerator, I keep all my apples in the bags that they come in from the grocery store because I don't want them to affect other things in the fridge.
But
Uh,
those apples that I do the same thing, they stay in the refrigerator for like weeks and weeks and weeks,
mhm.
and they're still good. So
But if you
they're
put anything else in the fridge with naked apples, the other fruit will, and vegetables will continue to ripen because of
okay.
the ethylene gas given off.
I put them in a place by themselves. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Well, yes. Speaking of, well, going back to the pruning of oaks and things in that order, November, I've got some oak saplings I need to do some trimming. So I should wait a little bit, I guess, and get the bottom small branches off of them. Just
Yeah,
wait for a little bit.
you can do it after the 1st of November. As long as we're into the cold weather and there's no chance of that plant, and there's no chance for the weather to warm up so much that all the plant moisture, all the water inside of it is moving. That's that's what you need.
Oh, okay. Well then, on the same
You need,
token, I'm getting ready to get. I need to get some elm and maple
okay.
cut back this fall. Is that acceptable for those two? Having
Um,
them done this fall?
I'm not sure about elm. I know that maple, you definitely do not want to prune them anytime between February and May because the water inside those trees is flowing. And that's why we can get maple syrup out of a maple tree because their sap is flowing so prodigiously that it will run right out of the cuts that you make on the tree. So maples are usually pruned in summer when that all slows down a little.
All right, but Ken, you
Thank
said
you.
they're sapling. He said they're saplings, Dolly.
Hmm.
Isn't that how big do you mean saplings?
Well, they're some are a couple inches in diameter.
Yeah.
They're
Oh, okay.
volunteers. These are
So
these are the oaks.
they're a little bit bigger than a whip.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought saplings, I thought they were like, 5 inches tall. Okay.
No, a sapling would
Oh
be
no.
a tree that goes all the way up to about an inch and a half or an inch and three quarters in diameter on the trunk.
Okay.
So that's about 5 or 6 years old. Let's see. We didn't get to go over formative pruning. And Ken, that's what you're going to be doing is a little bit of formative pruning. But structural and formative pruning is really important for trees because you can dictate how that tree is going to fail by not pruning it at all once you plant it. So, like after a tree's been in the ground for, just like I said before, 2, 3 years, um, we would go back and we would do these pruning cuts. And that would be to um, make a leader, choose the scaffolding branches, and cut all the other branches out. So the scaffold branches are going to be those big, big branches that are going to actually make the canopy of the tree. And those scaffolding branches um, they should be staggered up and down the tree and around the tree. So there shouldn't be any scaffold branches that are next to each other because then that makes included bark. You can keep temporary branches on for a few years, knowing that you're going to take it off. Um, the lowest permanent scaffold branch is going to be that branch that is going to be the one that's going to be about 8 feet above the sidewalk. And so you can kind of think of that as your benchmark. There's the bottom of the canopy of the tree, and the tree grows at the top and up. So you can choose that lowest permanent scaffold branch right now. These are just temporary branches for the first 5 or 6 years of the tree's life to help it grow the canopy. And then those come off when this all matures a little bit more.
Where did you get that
Oh,
page
okay.
from, Valerie?
This is from the PowerPoint. It's slide number 91, so we didn't get to it the other day.
Oh,
And
okay.
we didn't have enough time. And then now going back to the hormones, I want to show you an example of what happens when you top a tree. And I don't think that topping is something that's covered here soon, is it? I don't remember them going over it.
A little bit was in this week's chapter,
Yeah, okay.
never to top a tree.
Yeah, never top a tree.
Yeah, never.
It makes me sick every time I find trees that are topped. And I went through, see how ridiculously long this is? This is too long. You guys
Mhm.
cannot absorb this much amount of information and make sense
Thank
of it.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I want to improve that. And I was told yesterday that I have the power to do that within my own class.
Good.
So the other day I was out driving around and I was in Hobart. So whoever's in Hobart, don't get offended. I stopped and turned around and came back to take a picture of this tree because this is shameful. This is a thing done to this tree that should never be done to any tree. You can see that the tree trunk was just cut off. They just lopped it off. And I think they thought that they were going to kill it, except that this is a willow and that tree has very extensive roots. It's going to go anywhere that it can find water and take water up. And it has a lot of adventitious buds that's all these hidden buds. And it's going to do this. And remember how I talked about tree branches being anchored and strong like your shoulder? None of this new growth is anchored and it's all going to break because first of all, it's a weeping willow and they don't have very strong wood. And so this is a big old hazard tree. The bigger these get, the more of a hazard they become. Now it's out in the middle of a field. It's not really next to a house or a car or where people walk. So it's not really hazard to anybody, but it is a pretty crappy looking tree.
Mm.
That's what this is talking about here. We don't want stubs. We don't want topping. We don't want this kind of growth to happen. This is all really, really weak wood, and these trees are going to be the first ones that are going to fail when the weather comes through and a big wind comes through. Okay. All right. What else do you guys need to know?
Okay, I do have a question. So I went to this this little pumpkin farm over on 87th and Klein,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just a small guy. He's just starting out, he gets kids going over there. And he said he was having trouble with bugs on his pumpkins and something else with his corn. So so I would call him kind of a commercial guy. So we're not really answering commercial questions. Aren't we sending that over to you or whoever?
You're sending them to the extension office and eventually they would end up to me. But if it's a farm question, most likely it'll end up to Rebecca.
Okay, because for some reason or another, he was in touch with the Valpo
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
it.
he might have been in touch with Nikki because Nikki might have more time to address his problem than Rebecca. And
Okay.
the counties all share people and information a lot more than they used to. So yeah, that's fine for him to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I told him Crown Point's closer, but he said she solved his problems,
Yeah. That was
whoever
probably
the
Nikki.
person was.
It was probably Nikki.
So he was pretty happy.
Nikki's very good at that stuff. Which is why she did some of your disease. She did your disease lesson because she's very good at it. So yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it could have been a situation where Becca actually referred him to Nikki because she's very good at that. So that's what I mean by like we share information resources, knowledge resources. If we can't answer his question, we're going to send him, we're going to find a place for him to get his answer, and we're going to send him to that spot.
Dolly,
Yeah.
I was wondering, on the test, the little quiz about the woody ornamentals,
Mhm.
on number 18, when it asks for our locality's hardiness zone, why is it asking for 2012 map specifically? Because we have in our textbook, we have a 2023 map.
Exactly.
So why is it asking for the 2012?
Because that's how old this exam is.
And so where is that? I mean, like, just was that on the slide presentation then for the 2012? Because the 20 in
No,
our
I
book,
showed you the 2023. So you know what I can do? I
the
can
2023 is in our book.
I can do this. Boom, it's changed. So that's what you need to do. That's what we need to do to update things is change that kind of stuff. That's why I've been putting the proper map into our lectures because anytime you see that map, it was the wrong map in every lecture because these are a couple years old. These lectures are a couple years old. So that's no big deal. So yes, the 2023 map is the appropriate one for that question.
And we are 6A.
It depends on what town you're in, because if you're in the northern half of the county, you're 6B. If you are in the southern part of the county, you are zone 5A.
Are you talking about Lake? You're talking about Lake County.
Yes.
So where is the line?
Right around my brother's house on 231, I swear to God, because he has different weather conditions than I do.
It's not actually a straight line.
It's not. Look at that.
Looking at
It's
the
an
little map,
arc.
yeah. It's just above Crown Point, it looks like, or right on the edge. Crown Point's right on the edge.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with elevation.
I'm on 5
You know, these areas here are probably a little bit lower than around it. And so cold air settles. I think that's how that works.
So Crown Point is the highest point in Lake County. Crown
Oh, it
Point is.
is. All right. So maybe
Yes.
it's the
My dad
opposite.
told me that, and he knows. He's an excavator.
Okay. So
Okay.
maybe it's the opposite. Maybe I just have it backwards.
So would you say for our general area, the answer would be 5A to, or 5B to 6A, because we don't know exactly where someone who might be asking us that, exactly where their home property
Yeah.
lies on that curve.
Yeah, it's actually 5B to 6A. That's our count.
5B to 6A, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So if that answer needs to be changed on that quiz, we'll make sure it gets changed.
So we're
5B to
answering with the
6A.
current information.
Yeah. Indiana is zone 5 and 6, specifically 5B, 6A, and in some places 6B. And now that's the 2012 map. And now with the 2023 map, look what we have down south. We have 7A
Mhm.
Yeah.
that we've
Woo.
never had before. One more zone, and we don't have soil freezing.
Just think of what you could plant.
Just think about the
Oh.
storms. They get more intense the warmer it gets.
Mm.
Okay. Anything else about this? So
Um,
yes, you should be referring to this map from now on. This map is very easy to find. You just look up 2023 USDA Indiana map.
It's also on page 59 in the manual.
Somebody at
Okay.
one of the universities, I think, put this map together. Oregon State University did this. And I don't even think that they did one for every state. For some reason, we got one made. So, and like I said, this was done with many, many more weather stations than there used to be. So it's a little bit more accurate than it used to be. Like maybe it used to be just a straight line, if this was with the old, number of weather maps, maybe this all would have just been a straight line instead of so detailed. So that's a good thing. Okay.
Could you also speak to question 17? And I know there's a lot of different factors to consider, but what would you think of as some of the most important ones, I guess?
Let's see. God, let me make it big enough so I can read it. Jeez. Okay.
You're still talking
What are
about
some of
woody
the
ornaments?
what are some of the important factors to consider in landscape plant selection? Well, U.S. hardiness zone for sure is the first one because it's so important. And I'll give you a really quick example. A master gardener came to the office today to drop something off, and we were talking about the new redbud tree that just got planted in the demonstration garden. And I said, "Isn't this beautiful? It's absolutely gorgeous. This tree is going to be so pretty here." And they both went, "Oh, redbud. Ugh, dead bud is what we call it." And I
Mm.
said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, our sister-in-law insisted that we bring home a redbud from her garden in Virginia and
Oh,
plant it in our yard, and it's been nothing but trouble all the years that we've had it because it's been half dead the whole time that they've had it." And I said, "Well, that's because that plant was, from a seed from a plant in Virginia, which is like whatever's Virginia zone 7, 8." And I said, "It can't survive our winters here. You have to plant a northern red bud that was basically born north of the Mason-Dixon line." And so hardiness zone does count, even if the general information for redbud says zone whatever. I think it's like zone 5 to 9. We can't take a tree out of zone 9 and put it into zone 5. It won't survive the winters very well because it's not adapted. Even if it says that it should be, you have to get one that's locally or at least more northern born. Dry or moist soil is very important. So it behooves you to know what kind of soil you have in all sections of your garden. And that's where um, getting out a notebook, starting to log things about your yard and your landscape is important. Naming each section of your yard because one section of your yard could have clay soil for some reason, and one section could be loamy for some other reason. And so naming those areas around your yard is very useful for remembering that. The amount of sun and shade, it matters a lot with landscape plants. I don't know why people continue to put hostas in the sun. It absolutely is one of my biggest pet peeves. The shape of the tree. Remember the example I gave you with my trees here at my house that I wanted both columnar trees? Well, that's because I wanted them to be in scale with the width of the garden and the yard on the side of my house and the height of my house. I didn't want two big, gigantic trees overpowering the whole space. I wanted them to be kind of slim and tall and skinny so that they would fit into the space better and be more in scale. Um, Windward side, evergreens. You can put evergreens on the northwest corner of a building very easily to make a windbreak. You cannot put a redbud or a magnolia exposed to northwest winds in the winter because that will absolutely damage them. So yeah, all of these are good reasons and factors to keep in mind when you are looking for a tree. Now, do you have to, if you're picking out a tree, do you have to go through every single one of these? And you know
Check it off.
obsess over every one of these factors in choosing a tree. You don't have to obsess over all of them, but the more you know about your own piece of property, the more automatic this is going to be. You know what? I have loamy soil. It's slightly acidic. Most of the trees are going to be okay here. That kind of thing. This is going to become more automatic. All right. What else do you need? Is that
Hey,
good?
Dolly.
Is that what you needed?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Dolly.
Yeah.
Hey, I guess we're going over soils this week, and I'm not sure if anybody else how many other people have had soil tests done, but I got a couple of mine I can bring in if you want to make a couple of copies and pass around. Anybody who's interested in seeing what they look like.
I have a
Well,
soil test too.
yeah, I mean, bring them in. We can pass them around. I don't think we need to make a copy for everybody because I think Becca's going to go over some of that, but it would be
Okay.
useful to pass one around. Yeah. I think I probably have one sitting on my desk too. I think.
Yeah, 'cause I
Now,
had my, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go Ken.
I just had mine done at the ANO Great Lakes a while, a couple of times over the last number of years. That's
Mhm.
the ones that get right outside the door right there. And but yeah, it's an eye opener when you're trying to grow stuff. You don't
Yeah,
really have an
yeah,
idea. But if she's going over that stuff this week, probably
yeah.
that's
She's gonna go over all of it. Yeah.
matter of fact, she probably got the results from mine the last couple of times.
Yeah, she would have. She would have gotten it. And now some of those are gonna come to me.
Oh,
So
okay.
just to take a little bit more off of Rebecca that she doesn't have to do it. Unless we have one that comes in for a farm, then she'll take care of it. Um, yeah, soil tests are really important if you're starting a vegetable garden or if you've been having problems with your lawn or your landscape plants and you just really cannot figure out what the problem could be. The one thing about the company that we use for the tests is that they do not test for heavy metals or contaminants. So they're just going to be testing the pH. They are going to be testing for all of the major and minor elements in the soil, minerals, things like that. I can show you one thing that I'm going to pass out. Um, since I can't find the other thing I'm looking for. No, you're going to be tricky tonight, aren't you? All right, so I don't understand. I don't understand Microsoft. My publisher documents don't show up in that menu. All right, so this is what I'm going to show you tomorrow or Friday. We're going to have a copy of this for everybody to take home. So this is a soil pH chart, and this is really useful for understanding how certain plants grow. So here we have the pH scale, neutral is in the middle, and then we have acidity down here, it goes down to 4, and then we have alkalinity up here and it goes to 10. You don't, there's nothing below 4 on the pH scale in 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 respects to something that you're going to come in contact with because this is just for plants. There are chemicals that go down further below 4 on the pH scale, but we don't deal with that in landscaping. That's going to be like pond chemicals and, chemicals in manufacturing and things like that. Um, let's see if we can bounce this up a little. Okay. So each one of these sections is not just a little tab on the chart. This is an exponent in between here. This is a very large exponent. There's a big difference between 6.5 and 5.5 on the pH scale. Nitrogen is very available throughout most of the range. Phosphorus is available until you get to 8.5 alkalinity, and then for some reason it opens back up again. So wherever the lines narrow, that mineral is not available to the plant. And so whatever the plant is can't take that up. And so the plant is going to show you symptoms of some kind of different leaf color or some kind of leaf pattern. And that is going to indicate that that plant is having a problem. Um, I think manganese is one that makes your leaves, is it manganese or boron? One of these makes your leaves purple if you are deficient, but so does cold weather. So it's a little tricky. Um, let's see here. Let's talk about the pin oak for a minute. Here we have iron. Most of the pin oaks in our region, we don't see them very often anymore. And as they are dying off, landscapers are not replacing them and homeowners are not replacing them because most of the time they're chlorotic. They are this neon bright green with dark green veins on each leaf, and the tree just doesn't look healthy. Well, that's because most of our soils in this area in the Midwest are somewhere between, somewhere in here between the middle of 6 and 6.5, like in the middle of between there and up to about 7, 7.5 in some cases. But most of the time, we're going to say that Midwest soils are pretty neutral to a little bit acidic. However, if we go down here to the chart and look at iron, iron is a little bit unavailable in this area right around neutral and just below it. But because pin oaks are from the East Coast and the Southeast where the soil is naturally more acidic, here we have iron in abundance available to the plant. The plant will be able to take it up as it is in the soil. Up here, it is just going to sit in the soil, but the roots won't be able to, it won't be able to pass through to the roots because there is just the wrong chemical reaction happening. And that has to do with cation exchange. And that is probably the closest to chemistry we're going to get in this course is cation exchange capacity. And this is why Becca is doing the class for you on Friday, because when I was a master gardener and also took college courses for soils, I just couldn't wrap my head around cation exchange capacity. Like it caused me so much stress. Now I understand it a little better. I just don't think I can teach it very well. So she's going to teach it to you. But does this make sense that, there are certain places where phosphorus is going to be a struggle for a plant to get because of the pH? Potassium is going to be really available up here in the alkaline range. But if a plant is sitting in um, down here by 5 and 5.5 pH, it's going to be a little bit unavailable. So you might not get flowers. That plant would get leaves pretty well, but the plant might not get flowers because the phosphorus is really unavailable and that makes flowers. But then potassium is for cellular health. And so the plant might just in general not look good, but it'll have green leaves. But it won't flower and it just won't look super healthy. So, do you have any questions about this? I'm going to
Well,
go
I have
over
a
it again.
question about number 10.
You want to go back to the
I
quiz?
do, number 10 on yes, for this week's homework. It's regarding the iron in the pin oak, just as you were explaining.
Yeah.
It's thought to be caused by a deficiency of iron in the soil.
Yeah.
So the answer is true.
No, it's false because it is
In
not a
the quiz you
deficiency of
just-
iron.
It's
No,
false.
no. If we're
It's so
talking about
confusing.
iron and pin oaks, the iron is here.
Yes.
But what this chart is telling us is the ability of the plant to take it up. This is not the amount of iron that's actually in the soil. This is how well the plant can take it up. The plant can take it up really well if it's in acidic soil because that's where pin oaks evolved. Pin oaks didn't evolve in our chalky limestone soils that are up here around the lake, where our whole region is on a slab of limestone that's millions of years deep. So here it's kind of a struggle. The iron is kind of there, but the plant can't take it up.
So
Not
you're
to be
saying it's
caused by
false?
It's false.
Yep.
Okay.
It's false. So the iron could be there. It's just the plant can't take it up because the pH isn't right to make the chemistry right for that element to pass through to the roots of the
But the
plant.
question says pin oak is thought to be caused by a deficiency of iron, but it's not.
It's false because they're talking
So
about
false.
whether or not there's a deficiency of iron in the soil,
Oh,
not
I
in the
thought it was
plant.
in the pin oak.
No, in the soil.
In the stuff in the soil. Oh, of iron in the soil.
Yeah.
Yes, the end of the question. Thank you, Dolly. That explains it now.
Well, I guess the blueberries get the short end of the stick with the low acid uptaking everything.
Well, they
They're kind of
can,
different. I know they're
they're,
different, but
yeah, they're just really well adapted to it. So for whatever reason, they can handle it. I think that would be a really good question for Becca on Friday when we're talking about the pH chart. Like this looks all really diminished down here, like the plants really can't take it up. But why do blueberries do well here? And it could just be an evolutionary thing. They just evolve that way.
cool. Thank you.
Hmm. Okay. Anybody else?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I'll read over pH tomorrow and make sure that I have it all straight, but I'm pretty sure I do. And this is going to have a second page to it. You guys can have some explanation. The pH scale down here is pretty cool. I'm glad you guys are going to have this. So it shows us where certain plants sit on the pH scale. So here between 5 and like almost 7 is a lot of our plants in our environment. Well, Scotch broom, no. I think that this was something from the West Coast. But blackberries are pretty adaptable. Apple trees are pretty narrow. So if you see something wrong with your apple tree, you might have too high of a pH. You know, this is just something that so pH is pretty important to plants, but I'll be honest with you, with my own landscaping and my own planting, and it's probably my failing. I really don't pay attention that much. I do know that my soil is pretty neutral, so I can't put anything in that really loves acidity. Like I can't grow holly bushes here. Not that I would want to because they're not native, but it's like really important, but also most of the plants that we're going to grow, unless we have a really altered soil profile, like living on a brand new subdivision, that is where it becomes important because you're living on a slab of hard clay that is pretty neutral to alkaline. And so therefore you have to start amending the soil so you can plant.
So if you have a tree that's having a hard time because it's I don't know, the pH is off, can you actually do something about that?
You could add sulfur to the soil to raise the pH so it can take up the nutrients it needs. Sometimes it will work, but sometimes it doesn't. It works very, very slowly. So you're not going to see the results in a day or two. You're going to see the results in like 9 to 12 months.
Okay.
So it works very, very slowly, but it can improve the life of the plant. And also fertilizing could help it too. We don't usually fertilize trees. It's not all that necessary. But in a case like that where your tree might be kind of sickly, and you want to try and help it, the more healthy it is, the better it's going to bounce back. And keeping it regularly watered is really a big important thing too. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you guys will get this Friday, and when Becca starts talking about pH, I'll hand it out then. Okay.
It's a nice chart though. Pretty easy to read. Let's see
Yeah,
what's
I think it's the one that I found when I was in college. It's online. This whole handout's in line, and maybe um maybe someday I'll have time to redo the bottom and do all of our plants that we grow here in the Midwest, because a lot of these are not Midwest plants. And why is English ivy on here? English ivy is terrible, so we don't do that. And honeysuckle, well, is this honeysuckle vine? Is this bush honeysuckle? Is this northern honeysuckle bush? You know, what is this? It's a little too vague. So this part needs to be true. So take this with a grain of salt. But the rest of the information is very good. So you guys will get that. That'll be a nice resource for you just to hang on to. Okay, what else do you guys need to know about? What else do we need to go over? Nothing? We all done? We can't be done. You guys have so many questions in class. Is there something new that you want to cover?
Dolly,
Yeah.
I did have a lot of discussion in my own head over answering question 12 on the woody ornamental quiz because from the slides show and also from page 275 and 276 in our manual, I understand that you don't want to have disturbed the soil to the point where, like, if you dug the hole too deep and you have to put more soil back in, you want to compact that so that the tree is not going to sink later. But
Yes.
on the other hand, it also talked about roughing up the underlying soil so that you don't get that bathtub effect where, you know, or the roots can't go in if the soil's real hard or something. So I had a little like I said, I had a big discussion with myself over what they meant by that. And I came to the conclusion that they were talking more about whether or not you dug the hole too big and you were gonna
Yes.
but there is a little truth to both. You need to disturb the soil a little bit, but not so much that the trunk, like the ball is going to settle in so
Yes.
that your depth is not right in the long run.
Both
Is-
statements can be true at the same time.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
that right. Yeah. So we definitely need to make sure that, like, well, my planting partner and I, John, we would jump down in the hole and stomp down on it a little bit, make it stable. We always felt like that stable bottom for a flat bottomed B&B plant tree is so much more important than roughing up, because when the tree first goes into the hole, gets completely planted, starts growing a little bit, really you're not going to have those anchor roots go downward first. They're going to go outward
Okay.
first. I have another interesting photo I can show you. Let me see if I can find it real fast. So the anchor, there are some trees that put down an anchor stem, like a taproot, initially when they come out of the seed, and then a few years down the road, after all of the roots that are going to stabilize that tree after they have had a chance to grow and mature a little bit, that taproot sometimes does disappear, because when you see trees fall over, they often do not have a taproot. If you've ever seen a tree fall over, which is exactly what I saw. Oh, where is that photo? Now I can't find it. Darn it.
We had a big storm come in one time in Crete where I lived. And it took down most of conifers,
Mm-hmm.
mostly evergreens. It took down, just like you said, they just like fell over completely.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and I'm like, where's all the roots?
Yeah, they're very shallow rooted.
They're very shallow. I was so surprised, but I saw why they were the first ones to go.
Of course, I can't find it. All right, I can't find it. I thought I put it into our PowerPoint though. Okay. What else do you guys have questions about? Yes. Um, the reason why evergreens are sometimes staked and have guy wires for many years is exactly that, because if they're in a place where it's very, very windy and they might get hit by a really big storm, they're secured with the staking and guy wiring. And yeah, I mean, people are always surprised when a tree falls over. They're shocked at what it looks like underground because I think that a lot of us have had this perception since we went through school as children that a tree roots mirror the canopy of the tree, and that is 100% untrue. Tree roots go out, within the top 12 to 18 inches of soil, but they go out beyond the canopy very, very far in some cases. Like elms, oh my God. Elms can go, 100 feet or more. They're going to seek out sewer lines and break into them. They're kind of notorious for that. I did not think that I took that photo before Monarch Fest. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. This is the bottom end of what looks like probably an Austrian pine. So it has a lot of feeder roots. You guys all see that? But look here, this is like this soil and this soil are very different.
Some
Okay,
of it looks sandy.
can you see it? This is probably clay, and this is probably the ball of the tree.
Wow.
This is the
Is that local?
this is the gravelly, crappy soil that they planted this tree in.
Poor tree.
And then these are all the feeder roots, but like I said, they don't have a lot of structural roots. They don't have a lot of big structural roots. That plant just fell right over. This was in Cherville, right by the new bookstore, Borders Books.
It looks like it was planted in a meridian or something. I mean, it's not very
It's in
much
a-
space for it either.
No, not very much space at all. It's in a median. And
Isn't
actually,
that
the
right
way,
on 41?
yeah, it's
Was
on
it on
41.
41, Dolly?
Yeah. And it, the thing that was part of the failure of this tree is the fact that it fell over and you really can't even see where it came from because it was so shallow. Unless they had pushed this thing around with a tractor before they took it away, which could be the case. But in any case, even if they did move it or push it around, this is such crappy soil and it's so shallow. It really didn't have a chance. So oftentimes landscape trees in commercial plantings like this never reach their lifespan.
Yeah.
And it's because the soil is kind of bad. Like they just don't think about it. The construction company comes through, they put together um the medians and they're filled with gravel and they put in like 3 inches of soil or 6 inches of soil if you're lucky. And then they plant a tree in it and hope that it'll grow in alkaline limestone gravel. And pine trees like a little bit more acidity, so they're not going to thrive. And then things like this happen.
And it's surrounded by asphalt. I mean, where can it go?
Exactly. It can't go anywhere. The roots can't go anywhere.
I'll tell.
And because this is all underneath all this asphalt is solid compacted gravel. So the roots can't grow under this and grow through this. unless the plant was really, really thriving, because tree tree roots can go through asphalt and break it. I've seen milkweed break through asphalt. I have a photo of that somewhere too. But it wouldn't be able to get into that compacted gravel very well, and all of this is probably very alkaline because of the limestone. Limestone is alkaline. It's made of mostly calcium, and so it's really high pH, or it's really, really neutral. So that's not healthy. Poor
Yeah,
tree.
the neighbor of mine a maple fell over in a storm not too long ago, and I was amazed at the lack of roots. It's just
Yeah.
a tiny little ball underneath there. I don't know that most maples that way if they've been there for a while.
No, actually, maples that are pretty mature, they usually have a really extensive root system, especially if it's in a lawn or near a garden that gets watered a lot. Anywhere that a maple is going to get water, the roots are going to go straight for that area. So when I had my silver maples out in my yard, if I was going to plant in my garden, the first thing I would have to do is cut through like a half inch to an inch deep of little feeder roots from the maple tree and take out like this little plate-sized disc of roots and discard it. And then I could dig the hole for my plant because those silver maples were going for my garden because I watered my garden and not my lawn. So they will have extensive root systems if they're well cared for. Um, but if it was kind of a new tree, a young tree, it would make sense that it wouldn't have tons of roots.
You know, you mentioned something about watering and stuff. I think this is one of these people that I think is constantly watering his lawn. So maybe the roots didn't have to go deep to get water. That may be part of his problem too. I'm kind of imagining.
If he waters frequently, but very short amounts of time, it's better to water anything, a garden or a lawn, longer, but l longer intervals in between waterings. So lawns like three days a week for, 15 to 20 minutes or more if it's really hot, but not every day for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. That's too much. Um,
Yeah, I think he has a well outside that he uses for watering his lawn. So I think he uses it quite a bit. So that's probably too much water in there, I guess.
maybe, maybe. Okay, we're getting close to our cutoff time.
I just watched the show of a guy who was gardening. He like homesteads and he has these like they're like the terracotta pots, but they're hooked up to a line with very slow running water into the terracotta pots. And it like he said that there's water then basically going to the plants like all the time and he's doubled his yield in all of his plants.
Yeah.
But I was like,
That's-
wouldn't that be too much water?
Not
What
if
kind of
it's
plants?
not if it's
Lisa?
a slow drip. I'm gonna
It's
assume there
all
was
sorts of plants, like everything. Like he does it in his whole garden, so like everything.
I don't think I'm spelling this right. This is probably what he constructed, and you can construct this out of two clay pots glued together, one on top of each other to make a. But this doesn't have a big drainage hole at the bottom. Hello. There's no drainage hole at the bottom of this thing. What it is though, you plant it in the ground. We talked about this earlier in
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
and you fill this thing up, and the water just weeps out of the terracotta slowly into
Yeah.
the soil so the plants can take it up. So he's just doing it, but with an automatic filling system,
Okay. Okay.
which is kind of cool. But he
Yeah.
probably doesn't have that on all the time because once this thing fills up, it takes the water maybe about a week or two for it to go down to be used.
Okay.
And depending on how dry the soil is around it, it will also like the soil will draw that water out along with the water having pressure and pushing out.
Yeah, he had a really cool setup. The container that he put the water in also had like it was layered buckets
Okay.
and it was filled with like compost and worms.
Oh, okay.
So he was doing like a tea basically for the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah, compost tea. Well, no
And he,
wonder his plants were doing so good. If he
yeah,
was
so
watering
he was,
compost tea.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can get any better fertilizer than compost tea. It's just that compost tea is um laborious to make and maintain because it has to be in a container that's being agitated, from what I understand. So you, at least I think it does. One of the ones that I've seen, it had agitation. But I think that's for
Okay.
like big commercial operations. I think it was a big,
My brother is a like semi-pro fisherman, and I convinced him he needed a worm farm for fishing. And so now I go to his house and I steal his compost from that.
nice. That's
And
awesome.
so he's like agitating it himself every time he goes to get worms. So
It's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
So find
You
you a
know,
local fisherman. That's what I'm saying.
I make compost tea, and I have an aquarium pump that with a stone in the bottom of it to
Okay.
bubble around it. Seems to work fairly well.
Yeah, because yeah, like look at this one. This one is definitely bubbling.
but you know, in the manual, they didn't really talk real positive about uh, teas, if I'm not mistaken, because
Yeah.
they said organisms can grow, or I don't remember exactly what it said, but it wasn't really a positive thing about these teas.
That
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me. It's kind of a it's kind of a permaculture thing. I'm not going to say it's a fringe thing. It's not fringe science completely, but
Mm-mm.
I don't think that it's ever been really embraced by um, university academic science. I don't know.
Now,
It's
this
more
week's
more the
chapter,
organic.
They talk
It's
about it.
more the organic stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I
they
mean,
say that if it gets on the plants, you should be sure that you wash it off because
Yeah, yeah.
depending what you're using, if you're using, cow manure, horse manure, and if you have kids playing by it, then you need to be sure that
yeah.
the kids stay away.
So compost tea is not just made out of your vegetative compost that you are making in your garden. Let me make no mistake, compost tea is made out of manure. And so, yeah, if your kids are going to be playing around in your garden, you do not want this
Mhm.
stuff with all of these soil bacteria and fungi in it, you do not want children exposed to it. So that's probably where most of that comes from. It's
Okay.
really important if you ever use any kind of horse or cow manure in the garden that it be composted for 1 year
Yeah.
minimum. More
And
is
it depends on what kind of manure you're using too, I think.
Yeah, like it helps if you have chickens because chickens will eat out all the
yeah,
like parasites and everything out of it too.
yeah,
So like all there's so many different factors that could go into it.
yeah, yeah. So
And
not the best idea for a lot of reasons, but also a really fantastic fertilizer if you can make it work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right.
If you want to fool around with manure.
Yeah, I don't. I went to a horse farm in Palos one year to get some horse manure for our community garden, and they assured me that this was composted a year, and I think they gave me the freshest
Mm.
stuff they had. And I
Mm.
was kind of upset about it because they want everybody to come and get this, but I don't think that they had the manpower or the time to get out there and turn it the way they were supposed to in order to get it to compost.
Yeah.
So I never ever went back. I was just really disappointed.
I've
what
used cow
happened.
manure before, and because the cows chew their cud, and you get so much less, you don't get as many weeds. You still have to compost it for quite a while, but you don't get as many weeds as you do with horse. And I've tried horse
Probably, yeah.
manure before
Mm.
too. This is at my old
Makes
house, my
sense.
bigger house. But
Well,
cow manure worked out pretty good, actually.
this was the notice on the USDA website today, and I was a little surprised. All I wanted to do was get this file, and this was there.
Wow.
Yikes.
Yikes is right. Yeah, I
Oh,
was
oh,
just
that
surprised. Like no matter what you think or feel about politics, this is uncalled for. That's uncalled for.
ridiculous,
I think it's
ridiculous.
rude, a little rude, but
Hmm.
whatever. We're not going to talk about politics. This is gardening. No politics allowed.
Speaking of manures and stuff on that order,
Yeah.
I guess anything that eats, you know, hay and straw and whatever, some herbicide things that they put around it that it survives the intestines and the digestive tract of
Yeah.
some of these things. So you got to be kind of careful where you what you put in your garden because it's still there. You may
Yeah,
want
that's why it has to be composted for a minimum of 12 months
to, does
because
that take out the herbicides wherever it is it's
it depends on the herbicide. It depends on the herbicide. Um,
I'll try to find out what that herbicide was because yeah, cause I'm kind of leery of using any kind of commercial like cow manure on my stuff. I went to chicken because
yeah,
they don't eat the same stuff. So
yeah, right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. I saw one of the people I follow on YouTube and I watch, she's a really good gardener. Um she moved from Alabama, I think, or Arkansas. She moved from one of those states down to South Carolina to a much larger farm, put up 3 hoop houses, and bought compost locally. And it was compost that was like probably cow manure compost and hay compost and all that kind of stuff. Well, the hay that they composted was treated with basically a forever herbicide. And
Hmm.
so the first year she put all of her peppers and everything inside this hoop house, she couldn't understand why nothing was growing. And she had it tested, and sure enough, it was all contaminated with this herbicide. And I can't remember what the herbicide is. I think it started
that may be the same one I'm thinking of.
I think it started with a D, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go back through her videos, and that was like 3 years ago. So I don't even know if I could go back that far. Anyway, she said that to mitigate this, she was going to have to let the soil sit for a really long time or do something proactive like plant sunflowers in it every year for a few years because
Mm.
sunflowers have the capability to take up chemicals and break them down. And the chemical is not going to end up in the sunflower seeds because the plant just chemistry goes on inside the plant that I don't understand. So don't ask me to explain it, but they have the ability to take up pollutants and break them down. And that's also the idea behind rain gardens is that you get a lot of pollutants if the water is coming off of the road or from your roof or your driveway. You get oil and gasoline and all kinds of other stuff off your roof. Goes
Mm.
into your rain garden, the water is caught by all the plants, taken up by the plants, and it's basically cleaned. And then the plants, you can take the plants, you can compost the plants because just about every chemical that goes up, goes in there and is taken up can be broken down. So that plants are kind of miraculous that way. And I don't understand all the chemistry of it, but there is some good scientific evidence that that does happen.
What other plants do that besides sunflowers?
I know some flowers are really good. Native plants in general are good. Ones with big roots like cup plant can be good. Sunflowers are great because they're an annual.
some kind of squash plants do the same thing. They'll pull like the metals out of the what you call it, but I don't know if the metals end up in the vegetable or not. I don't know. I'll have to do some finding out about that.
Yeah. Let's see if we can find something here. 16 plants that help polluted soil. This isn't an academic article, though. In fact, it's probably some stupid website. Some of these websites just really
Oh, yeah, pretty interesting.
irk me. They really irk me. Come on.
Yeah, so I did a no-no like, 40 years ago in my garden. We used railroad ties.
Oh,
And of course
yeah.
I didn't know that back then. So railroad ties were the border. So all that creosote, oh God.
Yeah.
Oh,
I probably was eating it and who knows what.
Yeah. I don't think that anything is preserved like that anymore. At least not with creosote. They use other things. So alfalfa, Indian mustard, pennycress, Indian grass, which is a native. Hydrangeas, that's a really odd one on the list.
Wow.
Sunflowers,
oh dear.
corn, date palms, that's interesting. White willow, that's our weeping willow. Poplar trees, that's interesting.
So tulip tree.
Yeah, maybe tulip tree. Yeah, yeah. These are like
It's a poplar. It's poplar.
Yeah, it's a poplar. These are Lombardy poplars that we can't really.
Oh, okay.
Lombardy poplars are not very hardy here. They used to be really popular in the 80s. Phytoremediation, that is the name of the study of science of that. So if you want to look into this, you look into phytoremediation. But I think it's really interesting that sunflowers do this. Well, there it is. The plants metabolize it. They absorb it and metabolize it, break it down. So there's Indian mustard again. So and Indian mustard is regularly used as a cover crop in farming. So sometimes you'll go through, agricultural areas in the spring and see a big field of yellow first thing in the spring. That's probably this. And then they turn it over and let it get into the soil and it dies and does its thing. There's poplar trees again.
Yeah.
Deep roots, high evapotranspiration rates enable the uptake and dissolved contaminants. Ability to degrade certain organic pollutants. There's willow again. Oh, vetiver grass. I've never heard of that. Do not seek this out. It's probably not native and it'll eat your yard. That's just my fatigue talking.
Oh,
I'm very tired right now. Brake fern, that's interesting.
Is ryegrass a cover crop?
It can be, I think, yeah. Here's ryegrass. I think annual rye can be used as a cover crop. Sometimes people will use annual rye when they're overseeding their lawn, just so they can get something green really quick. And then they have perennial rye and Kentucky bluegrass in the mix with it too.
Ooh.
I've done that before. It seems to work pretty good.
Yeah, it does
Does it
work.
work good?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it comes up real fast.
Yeah.
Mm.
So there we go. There's your bonus lesson for tonight. Phytoremediation.
Yeah. That's fun.
All right, people. I've been
Thanks,
in
Dolly.
3 hours today. I need to go and have dinner and go to bed.
Eat.
Thank you.
thank you, Dolly.
You're welcome. You guys have a great night. And if you have anything else that you need, just email me before class. Otherwise, I'll see you on Friday. Becca will be there. And we're going to go over orientation. So if you can, print out your packet, your orientation packet, your policy manual.
Where would you find that again?
That's on your USB key from somewhere around week
Slide 7. Slide 7, the last slide.
What if you don't have a computer?
Then
Well-
I can email me and remind me, or email Renee and we'll print out a copy for you.
Okay.
I can print out a copy for
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Mm.
her. And who am I printing this out for?
Lisa,
Okay, I printed one out for Kathy, so I can print one out for you.
Thank
All right.
you very much.
You.
All right.
All right, everybody get off except for Lisa.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Job, boy.
Good night.